Well, Carrie, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you for having me
You
on a
betcha.
Friday afternoon.
I know. Yes, and it feels like summer. It feels like we're actually having summer in September. I think September's been nicer than July, actually.
Absolutely. It's been
Yeah,
incredible.
I know.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah.
So, Carrie, we have 7 questions that we're going to work through. As I've stated before with other guests, I hate asking questions, but I just feel for continuity, we need to go through questions and see how each candidate answers the question. So we'll ask seven questions, and then we'll come back and dissect some of the things that you said while you're answering those questions. So, Carrie, to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to run for Okotoks Town Council?
Great. Thanks. Yeah. I've been in Okotoks now for 16 and a half years. It's hard to imagine it's been that long. Have always been really involved in the community and was on council from 13 to 17. So there was a big transition time at that time as well. And I see that coming up here in the next 4 years, there's going to be more transition, just laying the framework and the strategy for future growth. And that's one of my favorite parts of council is laying that groundwork and engaging with community and finding what the community wants to do and translating that into good policy to lay that framework.
Mm-hmm.
So I've raised my kids here. They are all grown up now and ready to fly. And I've still got my 19-year-old at home, but yeah, it's fun to watch them spread out into the world, but that also gives me a little bit more time to dedicate to council.
Right. Absolutely. Carrie, what's your vision for Okotoks over the next 4 years, and what role do you see yourself playing in helping achieve that vision?
I see us continuing to grow. We're still at that 2 to 4% growth rate, it depends on the year. It fluctuates up and down. But I see us staying really connected. So when I moved here 16 years ago, there was 22,000 people, and I was moving
Mm-hmm.
from a community where there was about 2,500. And going to the grocery store was a hour-long adventure because you ran into everybody and there was always conversations.
For sure.
And so I was a little intimidated moving into a bigger community because I've always been a small town girl. And I find that even with the growth, I mean, we've added 10,000 people in those 16 years, but still going to the grocery store is a bit of an adventure. You're running into people that you're talking to, and going for that jug of milk still takes half an hour.
Right.
And I think Okotoks has been really good at that. And I think the community has set that priority where they want to remain connected. And so I think finding a way to maintain that over the next 4 years while growing the community and welcoming new residents into our culture, because Okotoks has got a really special culture, will be a bit of the challenge going forward, but it'll also be some of the exciting things because all of the new people coming to the community bring new talents and new vision, and I just think it ends up enhancing us.
For sure. In your view, what are the top 2 or 3 issues facing Okotoks right now, and how would you approach them if you were elected?
Infrastructure is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look at accelerating 32nd Street on the capital plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's not at a failure stage yet, but we all know that there's some pretty huge bottlenecks on 32nd at different
Mm-hmm.
times during the day. And for me, part of that is also putting in a traffic circle. Uh, I would like a traffic circle at the corner of 32nd and 338, just to kind of manage that school traffic in particular, or the church traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Four-way stops or three-way stops don't tend to work very well for managing traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a big one for me, is getting that a little bit accelerated on the capital plan, making sure that we've got a plan to move forward with that. Another one would be economic diversity. We're still sitting at an 88-12 ratio for residential to industrial commercial, and that's a problem. It's putting way too much weight on our residential tax base, and it's a burden for our homeowners. So we need to work on really implementing the strategy that council has developed for expanding that tax base into industrial and commercial. I would like to see us actively recruit tech. I know Calgary's focusing on that, and the provincial government is focusing on that. And I think Okotoks would be a beautiful place for recruiting some technical industry into the community and helping us diversify that tax base.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I learned when I was in Redwater, which is the community I moved here from, is they had a critical doctor shortage, and they had been recruiting doctors, and they recruited doctors and just plunked them into the community and expected them to do well. And their doctors would come, serve out their contracts, and leave. And when the community realized that they have to sell the community, they have to make the spouse and the family welcome in the community and integrate them into the community, then the doctors would stay. And I think if we took a strategy like that and applied it to recruiting tech industry into the community, we would be able to. We've got a beautiful community to sell. Let's sell it. It's a complete community. If we can get those jobs in town, our local people would have places that they could work and not have to commute to Calgary, which we all know is a headache. And it would allow us to diversify that tax base. So I think we really need to start implementing that strategy. And the third one is recreational and cultural amenities. We hear in our community all the time that we don't have enough. And we need to find a way to diversify that. The last time I was on council, we added the sheet of ice at Centennial, Viking Rental Center now.
Yeah, they call it Gold, the Gold Arena.
And we added the skating ice so that there was skating, and we could move that off of the ice sheets because we all know how strong hockey is in this community.
Yes.
So finding ways to creatively expand our amenities while watching the cost is another thing I would like to focus on.
For sure. Okotoks continues to face challenges around growth, housing, and infrastructure. How do you believe the town should balance development with maintaining its character and livability?
It goes back to that community piece that I was talking about. And we need residents to engage in that as well. If we're coming home from commuting into the city and going into the garage and closing the garage door and never leaving our house again, it really starts to erode that community feeling. So we need to find ways or reasons for people to get out of their home and socialize together. And I think during the pandemic, we really saw that lack of connectivity impact people. So we got a really good taste of the fact that humans need that connection. So we need to find ways to ensure that we're doing the community events and giving people reasons to come out of their home and connect with their neighbors.
Absolutely. Many residents want more transparency and involvement in decision making. How would you ensure residents' voices are heard and represented at council?
Well, and it goes back to the last time I was on council. So I was always really engaged in the Facebook groups, trying to answer questions and explain what council's doing, and connecting with people that were having issues with different processes in administration, and making sure that communication stayed open. And that hasn't changed. I mean, my daily work, I've worked for John Barlow for 11 years. I'm always involved in community engagement and talking to different people and trying to find solutions. So it would be back to basics, right? Talking to people on the street, answering emails, being involved in the Facebook groups, and just making sure that the community understands where to access the resources for what council is doing and answering the questions when they come up.
Town council works as a team and also with the Foothills County and the province. How would you approach collaboration and compromise to get results for Okotoks?
Well, and compromise is the big piece of that, right? Like, you have to be able to sit down and have conversations with those different governments, whether it's Foothills County or the province or the feds, and listen to what they have to say, because they've got needs that they need to meet too, and figuring out how we can meet all of those needs together. And so it involves conversation. And I'm sure we've all been in meetings where people are talking but they don't take the time to actually listen. And one of the things that I did the last time I was on council was make sure that I sit back and listen to what people have to say, and then try to figure out a path forward from there where everybody's needs get met as best they can.
Mm-hmm. If residents remember just one thing about you, Carrie, after listening to this conversation, what should it be?
That I want to partner with the community. I want to hear what they have to say. I understand the way government works very, very well. And I understand how to translate what community wants and what residents want into policies that make sense to go forward. Uh, I I understand clearly what our role in our lane is, and I stay within our lane and know how to refer it to other levels of government or other NGOs or wherever it needs to go in order to get the solution.
Mm-hmm. Can we go back to, you mentioned 2 to 4% growth rate in industrial? Is that what you said? 2 to 4%?
No, community residents,
Community
residential growth.
residents. Okay, so that was the
Yeah, I think
residential growth. But and what did you say was our industrial growth? Did you give me a stat on that or no?
yeah, our ratio right now is 88% residential tax base to 12% industrial commercial tax base,
Okay.
and that's skewed. It needs to be 80-20 in order to provide a healthy balance and more affordability for the residents. Residents cost municipalities money because there's all of those amenities that come with it, where you have to provide library service, recreation service, fire, policing, like all of that costs money. And if you can offset that cost with industrial or commercial tax base, then it helps offset the expenses that have to go on the residential tax base.
Yeah, for sure. So how would you and the council that you are working with, what are things you would suggest to lure companies to come to Okotoks to set up shop?
Sell the completeness of our community. Really, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't have to leave this community for anything, right? You've got all of your amenities in here. So unless you're on travel sports teams, that obviously takes you out. But all of your shopping can be done locally. We've got some great local shops, and then we've got the box stores that help support that. And the data has shown, like economic development data has shown for years, that having those box stores actually keeps more money in town and encourages people to shop locally in the small mom and pop stores as well.
Mm-hmm.
So selling the completeness of our community. We've got good doctor resources here or nearby. We don't have the hospital, but we've got 3 hospitals within 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot of different amenities that actually keep people in town.
Absolutely. You also mentioned a little bit later on, you talked about, you said recreational amenities and cultural amenities. Can you talk about the cultural amenities? Like, what are you talking about when you say cultural amenities?
We've heard from the arts community for years that they want a performing arts center. And it's one
Mm-hmm.
thing I worked on with that group quite a bit the last time I was on council. And I do think we need to continue working on that to see both where the cultural community, the people involved in those groups, what they want to see in amenities, and what the community is wanting to see in amenities, and find some way to bring that together. And maybe we've got it because we do have a lot of theater or performing spaces in this community. So where can we enhance that or complement that? And then where do we need to actually build a new facility? And
Mm-hmm.
we need to have that conversation in a little bit more robust a way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, because there's everybody has a little bit of an idea as to, my son plays hockey and then my daughters play softball. So like, oh, we need more softball, we need more hockey, and that's everybody, but there needs to certainly be a balance as to, we don't want to be too heavy on, hockey rinks, and then, we're not going to be attractive to people that want libraries and people that want more arts and culture. I and yeah, it's just we're living in a day when people, if they want something, they really do vocalize what they want, but they don't always necessarily go about it the right way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the conversation has to be respectful, and they need support for what they want as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we've got 100 people that want a performing arts center, but then 600 people that say, no, that's ridiculous, it's council's job at that point to figure out how to make something go forward if it makes sense for something to go forward.
Right.
And so it's part of the balancing act.
Right, for sure. Well, like you're no doubt keeping your ear to the ground a little bit. You're talking to people. You're probably talking to people more now that you've announced that you're running for council. What are the common themes that people are talking to you about? What are the concerns? What are the things they love? Are you getting a whole gamut of things, or are you hearing a few common themes?
People generally love Okotoks. That's what brought them here. They do have some concerns. Obviously, there's concerns around the growth and making sure infrastructure matches the growth rate. We need to have more conversations with the county about how that integration works with all of their aggressive development that are on our border that are affecting our amenities. So there is concern around that. I mean, we've all heard for years how hard it is to get somebody into swimming lessons. Um, so mostly it's around quality of life and making sure that the infrastructure and recreational amenities match what the community is looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like we've talked so much about growth, and it is inevitable, but if we're failing with what the infrastructure that we have already, that I think starts to be a little bit of a concern to some of the people.
It is. It's frustrating for people. So that's where we need to have a really good conversation with the community, because expanding those amenities costs money. So how are we going to do that in a way that the community meets the community appetite for both spending and having those amenities? And that's where partially my focus on expanding the industrial tax base a little bit and helping to support the community and the residential growth with an industrial tax base or a stronger commercial tax base will help us meet those goals.
Right. And you bring in the right businesses, and some of those businesses then want to help throw some money into a rec center, into, a skate park or whatever, right? Then you have these people that are really contributing to the community. And I think that's certainly some, like, do you know, like, is there like a special task force in the town? And this, I'm just showing my ignorance, and I do apologize, but like, is there a special task force or a group of people that are there to pursue new companies to come and set up shop in Okotoks?
Well, the economic development department within the town of Okotoks, that's part of their responsibility. They're tasked with that. And then there's also a greater Calgary area economic task force that's looking at tech and industrial development for the entire region. And from what I understand, that's just coming together now. So it's all in its infancy, and we need to make sure that we're steering it and landing some of that here in Okotoks as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I don't know, I guess to get a little defensive, the greater Calgary, yeah, okay, that's a great thing to attract new people, but really, we only care about Okotoks.
Yeah, we do.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, and okay, like somebody sets up shop right on our border, but it's in the foothills. Well, it's just like, oh, okay, there we go again. Like we just missed it, because you have all that industrial area in Alderside. There's some area, for companies to go set up shop there, and we could miss it by just a few small, like a few conversations or missed phone calls or whatever, right? I'm not saying that that's the case, but we need to find it feels like, and I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like there's a little bit of a tension between Okotoks and the Foothills County, and what things are going, like there's new communities going on in the foothills. I would only think it's a natural tension, because if the foothills counties are developing these new communities, we know that it's going to affect our rec, our hockey, our driving, our everything. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some collaboration there, but there's also there has to be a little bit of tension.
There is a little bit of tension, and that's where the people at the table really make a difference, because you need people at the table that are willing to work together, and there's got to be trade-offs. Some of what we attract will fit better in the foothills, but then having foothills recognize that some of what we attract will fit better in Okotoks, and working with partners in the region to help identify what fits better where, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that all areas in the region are succeeding, because there's lots of data too to show that if the region is successful, then the municipalities within that region are also successful. So there's
Right.
always going to be competition, and a little bit of competition is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to find a way to work together.
Yeah, and I think the current council and the mayor found a way to work together with Foothills. They can get in the water pipeline in and that infrastructure in place, which is kudos to them, because that was something desperately needed for years. So it's good that
Yeah.
we're finally moving ahead. But yeah, and I think just in the events of the last 24 hours here in Okotoks, we
Mm-hmm.
had an unfortunate shooting. I know shootings have happened here before, but they're rare. It's big time when a shooting happens in Calgary. It's like, oh, okay, it's on global news, okay, whatever. Oh, it's far away, or it affects you more if it's closer. But what are some of what are some of your concerns when it comes to policing, bylaws, crime, those types of things? Like, we obviously, this is yes, it is a bedroom community and it is a family community, but I think people are concerned that we're losing a little bit of our DNA.
Well, and I want to speak to the community on that a little bit, and just acknowledge the concern within the community from the events that happened in the last 24 hours. It is very scary, because we are a very connected community. And as you say, we're a small community, and when events like this happen, it does affect all of us. When I was on council from 13 to 17, I had a really good working relationship with the staff sergeant of the RCMP division, and I understood what the policing needs were in the community. And through my advocacy, we were able to get more municipal employees that to do the administrative work, so that we could get the officers out of the office and back onto the street a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And we were also able to increase to a fourth shift or a fourth crew, so that we could have 24-hour policing in the community. So it's always been something that's on my mind and a priority, and just making sure that we have a community where people feel safe, and they see the officers on the street and they know that they're there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I interviewed the mayor a few weeks ago, and we talked about that a little bit. And I think she was right when she said that it is the closeness, it is getting to know your neighbors, it is you know yeah, being a little bit nosy at times, knowing what's
Mhm.
going on, because if there is some concerns and with neighbors and stuff like that, to let bylaw know, to keep tabs, and I think that's something that I say kudos to bylaw, because yeah, bylaw is very easy to contact. They're very
Mhm.
approachable, and they want to hear the stories. They want to know what's going on. They want to keep tabs, and to help hopefully keep the magnifying glass on, so that people that are bad people get the
Mhm.
feel that, holy crap, people are really watching me here, and I can't get away with what I want to get away with here. So we got to get out of here.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's exactly how you do it, right? Is knowing your neighbors
Yeah.
and keeping an eye on each other, and making sure that if the blinds haven't been raised that day, that you're checking on Mrs. Smith and making sure that she's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like you say, being a little bit nosy. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely. So yeah, no, I need to reach out to Al Weeb. I know that he's in charge of I think it's called Citizens on Patrol or something. I'm just kind of fascinated to see, like,
Yeah.
what that's like, and what, is that happening, and because yeah, I do think we all have a certain responsibility to keep this town safe. I think sometimes you see something happening, you're just like, oh, I can't believe that just happened, and you don't want to jump through the hoops to report it, but that is something that I think can certainly keep that small town safe feel if people are quick to report things. And I know that not everybody likes that, but I do think it keeps people in check a little bit more.
Well, it does, right? And I mean, we've become such an individualistic society. It's easy to get, like I said, into your garage, close the door, log onto a
Mm-hmm.
computer, and type into a keyboard. Um, but if we want to remain a small, tight knit community, it means getting outside and actually talking to people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Carrie, what would you say to the average Okotokian? Why would you want them to vote for you?
I'd like a chance to help steer us through the next phase. I mean, my priorities, like I said, are community connectedness, making sure that we are diversifying our tax base so that people can afford to live here. Um, we need to start focusing on creating housing opportunities that allow our children to stay here.
Mm,
My kids are 23, 21, and 19 now. And quite frankly, they can't afford to live in this community on their own. So we need to find ways to make that a little bit more affordable for them and for people who are working lower, like commercial. We've got a lot of commercial development in this community, and I hear, and it's heartbreaking that the people working in those restaurants and stores can't afford to live here.
mm-hmm.
So finding a way, or even seniors, once they've retired and they want to downsize, we don't have a lot of really great opportunities for them if they're wanting to stay in town and be close to their kids and their grandkids.
Right.
So we need to really start thinking creatively about how to make this happen. And I'd like a chance to be at the table.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you certainly do have the experience, and with being on council before, that certainly will certainly be an asset. Now, when you do get into that situation where you do have a disagreement with somebody, like that's the thing that I do like about municipal politics. I feel like you have to have a certain level of relationship with each person on council.
Mhm.
Um, Even though you may not necessarily agree with them on 75% of the things that are proposed, right? Is
Yep.
that a part of do I have that right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to learn how to work with everybody and have healthy, respectful debates. You can disagree on an issue today and be aligned on an issue tomorrow that needs to go through and is good for the community. And so you can't hold grudges. You have to be able to respectfully disagree, accept the council decision, because once a council decision is made, it's the council's decision, and that's what you go out into the community with.
Hmm.
And then be ready to come back and debate the next question.
Hmm.
And you have to have an open mind.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's certainly rare for the provincial and federal politics, right? Where you just kind of go along with what the boss wants, right?
Yeah.
Here you can think on your feet. Here you can reach out to community members, get a feel for how they want you to vote. Um, like, have you ever voted in a on council in a situation where you didn't feel what you were voting for was right, but that you voted for the way that you felt that the community wanted? Have you ever run into that type?
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So you voted against the way that you felt was correct, but you voted in a way that you felt the majority of people were thinking.
Sometimes, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
mean, I am there as their elected representative.
Hmm.
So as long as I've got the information and what the community wants isn't going to be harmful in the long run, then sometimes, yeah, you have to vote with what the community wants independent of what I personally would do.
Yes.
The chickens is a great example of that. I grew up, we had chickens growing up. I can't stand chickens, but our community wanted the ability to have backyard chickens. And I'm like, well, all of the data came in and there was nothing outrageously harmful about allowing backyard chickens. So I voted for chickens.
Sure.
So, I mean, there are instances like that, or there's instances where the community adamantly wants something and all of the information that comes in, whether it's financial or legal or from all of the different resources that are available to us, and what the community wants would not be in the best interest of the community. So then you have to vote against what the community wants and try to explain to the community why you did that. And Mr. King, I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to meet Mr. King. No? Oh, okay. He was
no, sorry.
A lot of our listeners would know him. He was an older gentleman in town. He'd been on council. He ran the pharmacy. He was involved in everything. And he used to pull me aside sometimes and say, Fisher, you really make me mad. But he says, I can't, with some of the decisions I would make. But he said, I can't fault you for making it because I understand why you made it. And we have to be able to have that kind of conversation with the community too, because sometimes there are difficult conversations that have to happen.
Yes.
And they have to happen respectfully.
Yeah, no doubt. Sometimes you're even going to make a decision that you know that the population wants, but you know, and because you are that elected official and you do have that right to vote what you think is best. And sometimes, you know, as a parent, you're trying to do something for your kids, and they want one thing, you want another, but you ultimately, because you are the parent, have to make that tough decision and say, no, you're not right. We're doing this, right? So, Carrie, thank you for your time. And just so for the record, you referenced yourself, Mr. King referenced you as Fisher, that was before you became Penner. You now are Carrie Penner. You were Carrie Fisher. So just for the record, if anybody was kind of confused. But Carrie, thank you for stepping to the plate. Thank you for you know, volunteering to run, and no doubt, like, we're seeing so many great people step up to the plate because they're passionate about our town, and it's awesome to see the passion that people do have. So thank you very much, Carrie.
Thank you, and thank you for your time and doing all of this with every candidate, because that's a lot of work for you too. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks.